Now, from Wall Street to the race to the White House now, in many ways, this year's contest has been about winning over a crucial demographic, and that is young people. Take the buzz around the burn, for example. Last month, polls showed Bernie Sanders topped 80% support among people under the age of 30. That is almost unheard of. Not even Barack Obama saw those levels of support back in 2008. An expert on these shifting demographics is Tracey Wilen. She looks at the changing role of young people in the workplace in her book, Employed for Life, 21st Century Career Trends, and she joins us now from San Francisco. Tracey, thank you so much for being with us. You know, one thing that's really stood out in this primary portion of the election is that young voters seem very unhappy with the system and very unhappy with their economic prospects. Why is that?
Yes, and so we have the millennials, and then we have Generation Z, which is often referred to as the tail end of millennials from age 20 to 9. This group has really lived through common experiences of constant recession, an inability to pay for their education bills, having trouble finding jobs, and are looking to the future and looking to the political system to help, pave a path for them.
And what are the issues that you think are going to matter to them this time around? A lot of people are so surprised that they're supporting one of the oldest people in the race, someone who is a socialist who a lot of people thought were out of step. It seems to be the candidate, many of them, at least on the Democratic side, were really responding to. What issues are going to make them motivated enough to go to the voting booth?
Well, I think what Bernie Sanders has done is he's created a movement and a revolution, and he's inviting these young people to join him. He's certainly tapping into solving some of the problems that they have, which is education bills, concerns about their future, concerns about jobs, and concerns about health care. So I think if you look at how people vote, they're looking at, the here and now, what's important to them. That can certainly change once perhaps they enter the workforce, but many of these individuals are in college or just entering the workforce and are paying exorbitant bills. So they're looking to the government, they're looking to some relief, and Bernie Sanders is offering this.
They have. And when we look at women in particular, which I know you spend a lot of time focusing on, there was a comment somewhere along the line from some of, established people in the women's movement expressing shock that young people weren't standing behind Hillary Clinton because she had the chance to be the first woman president, make history. That doesn't seem to be necessarily the deciding factor for some of these young women. They say, we're not voting as a woman, we're voting as a person who's concerned about their particular lot. Are you surprised by that? Or does that fall in line with what we know about some of this generation?
No, that doesn't surprise me. Number one, a lot of us know Hillary for many years. We know her as a lawyer, the First Lady, a senator, as Secretary of State. A lot of the young generation do not have that history with her. They only know her from perhaps the Iraq War, her Secretary of State role. Young people today look at feminism very different than I think generations before. It's much broader today. Because as a young person, you don't even acknowledge that there's gender discrimination, in your environment. So, feminism is really more inclusive. Human rights, race, class, religion, much more multicultural than in the past.
Yeah, that's interesting. Tracey, what is our biggest misconception when it comes to especially women, young women in the workforce and how they approach their careers? I was just speaking to some that fit into that category, and I asked them that, and they really took issue with this idea that we're lazy, that we don't work hard. That really bothered them. What do you think are some of the bigger misconceptions out there?
Oh, well, I think that Generation Z in particular is a very pragmatic, self-directed generation. They're very technical, and they're very entrepreneurial. So I think that their whole approach to the workforce is going to be very different. In fact, many of them are already starting businesses at 10-year-old, 12-year-old in their teens. So the idea of conceptually actually driving, or into their terms, Ubering or lifting, to a physical office to conduct work with a small population is probably just not feasible in their mind, because they're using so many screens, many of them grown up with 5 devices, and are already collaborating with millions of people globally. So I think their whole approach to work is going to be very different than the generations before.
Yeah, that is absolutely fascinating. It mirrors what we find a lot when we have those young entrepreneurs on, and it's going to be a communication gap that the political leaders certainly need to fill if they're going to get their vote. Tracey, thank you so much for coming on today. Please come back again as we talk about these important issues. Tracey Wilen for us.
Thank you.